Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's going on, Mets fans, and welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's video, I need you to do me a favor. If you've been frustrated with this organization over the last few months, go ahead and smash that like button right now, because what I'm about to break down is going to validate every single concern you've had about the direction of this franchise. And listen, I know some of you are going to disagree with me in the comments, and that's fine. That's what we're here for. But I'm telling you right now, what's happening with David Stearns and this front office is not what Steve Cohen sold us when he bought this team. So let's get right into it. Eric Chavez, former Mets bench coach, just dropped some absolutely damning comments about David Stearns and the way this front office operates, and it's sending shockwaves through the organization. Now, Chavez didn't come out and directly torch Stearns by name, but if you read between the lines, if you understand how these things work in baseball, you know exactly what he was saying, and it confirms what a lot of us have been thinking for months now. David Stearns might be in way over his head with this New York Mets situation. Here's what makes this so explosive. Chavez was with the Mets organization. He saw everything from the inside. He watched how decisions were made. He was in those meetings. He understood the communication breakdowns that led to losing Pete Alonso, that led to Edwin Díaz walking to the Dodgers, that led to this entire offseason becoming a complete disaster. And now that he's gone, now that he's no longer tied to the organization, he's starting to talk. And what he's saying should terrify every single Mets fan who thought David Stearns was going to be the savior of this franchise. The biggest issue that keeps coming up, and this is what Chavez alluded to, is that Stearns operates like he's still running the Brewers. He's got a small market mentality in a big market environment with an owner who has essentially unlimited resources. Steve Cohen is worth over $14 billion. The man just got approval for an $8 billion casino project. Money is not an issue. But Stearns is out here acting like we need to pinch pennies and be conservative and make sure we're not spending too much. That's not what this fan base signed up for when Cohen bought the team. Think about it. The Brewers were a great organization under Stearns. Nobody's denying that. He built competitive teams on limited budgets. He made smart trades. He developed talent. But that's a completely different job than what he's supposed to be doing in New York. In Milwaukee, you have to be careful. You have to hit on every decision because you can't just go out and fix your mistakes with money. But in New York, with Steve Cohen, you're supposed to be aggressive. You're supposed to go get the best players available. You're supposed to capitalize on having resources that 90% of the league doesn't have. Instead, what have we seen? We watched Pete Alonso, the face of this franchise, a guy who hit 226 home runs in 6 seasons, walk out the door to Baltimore. And here's the kicker. Stearns never even made him a formal contract offer, not one. Pete's agent is sitting there waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for some kind of proposal, and it never comes. How does that happen? How does the president of baseball operations for the New York Mets, a team with unlimited financial resources, not even make an offer to retain their franchise cornerstone? It's absolutely baffling. And the excuse we keep hearing is that they wanted to see what the market was for Pete, that they wanted to be strategic, that they didn't want to overpay. But that's Brewers thinking. That's small market strategy. You know, in New York, you make the guy an offer. You show him you value him. You negotiate. Maybe you don't give him everything he wants, but you engage in the process. Stearns didn't even do that. He just let Pete walk into free agency, let other teams swoop in, and now we're stuck with Jorge Polanco on a bloated contract as our consolation prize. In the Edwin Díaz situation is even worse, and this is where Chavez's comments really start to make sense. Multiple reports have come out saying that Díaz felt blindsided by the Devin Williams trade. The Mets went out and acquired Williams, another elite closer, without properly communicating with Díaz about what the plan was. Now, some of you might say, who cares? He's an employee. You don't need to coddle him. But that's not how baseball works. These are human beings. These are relationships. If you want to retain a guy like Díaz, who had been your closer, who had been through injuries and tough times with the organization, you pick up the phone and you explain what you're doing before it happens. Stearns didn't do that. And what happened? Díaz went to the Dodgers for basically the same money the Mets could have offered. He took a 3-year deal worth $51 million. The Mets easily could have matched that or beaten it, But by the time they tried to circle back, Diaz was already done with them. He's quoted as saying the Dodgers are a winning organization, which is a clear shot at the Mets. You don't say something like that unless you felt disrespected by your former team. This is a pattern with Stearns. The lack of communication, the conservative approach, the inability to close deals with players who actually want to be here. And the most frustrating part is that Steve Cohen is sitting there ready to spend. He's apologized to the fan base for how last season ended. He said all the right things about being aggressive this offseason, but as president of baseball operations isn't executing. Stearns is operating in a completely different universe than what Cohen is selling to the fans. Now, here's where it gets really concerning. Michael Kay, who's one of the most respected voices in New York sports media, came out and basically delivered a reality check to Mets fans about Stearns. He said that people need to understand that Stearns is going to operate differently than what they expected, that he's not going to be flashy, that he's going to be methodical and careful. And while Kay is probably right about that, the question is whether that approach can actually work in New York with this fan base and with these expectations. Because let's be honest, Mets fans are not asking for the moon here. We're not demanding that the team sign every single free agent. We're not expecting them to have a $500 million payroll. But we are expecting them to be competitive in negotiations for their own players. We're expecting communication and transparency. We're expecting the front office to take advantage of having an owner who's willing to spend. And right now, none of that is happening. The offseason isn't over yet. There's still time for Stearns to turn this around. There are still players available. The Mets could still make moves that change the narrative. But every day that goes by without significant additions, every day that we watch other teams get better while we sit on our hands, the frustration grows. And when you have former coaches like Eric Chavez making pointed comments about the organization, when you have players like Edwin Díaz taking shots on their way out, when you have a fan base that's completely demoralized despite having the richest owner in baseball, something is fundamentally broken. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Do you still have faith in David Stearns? Do you believe he's the right person for this job? Or do you think Steve Cohen made a mistake and needs to make a change before this gets even worse? Because from where I'm sitting, watching how this offseason has unfolded, watching how we've lost key players without even fighting for them, watching how we've become a laughingstock while teams like the Yankees and Dodgers keep getting better, I'm starting to wonder if Stearns is really built for this market, and I think a lot of you are wondering the same thing. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button because we're going to be covering every single move this offseason, and trust me, there's a lot more to talk about. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm overreacting or if you're just as frustrated as I am, and I'll see you in the next one.